My 3 months working at the Clackamas Tivana location had come to an end, and it was time for me to return home to my original store at Washington Square. I was back to being an assistant manager, and I was happy about it. I missed my team. I walked into the store and sauntered into the back room to put my stuff down. I glanced at the schedule and noticed a name I had never seen or heard before. Elliott. Elliott was only 18, and Tivana was his first real adult job. He was getting very overwhelmed and anxious at work and spending a lot of time in the back. Some of the shift leads were concerned about how to coach him, as they worked with him more often than upper management. The few conversations I had with him let me know he was a good kid. So, I decided to figure it out firsthand, and took shifts where we were directly working side by side. It didn't take long before I realized that the poor boy just needed some authentic cheerleading. His confidence and ego needed to be boosted. No offense to my fellow managers at the time, who I still love with all my heart, but when they trained Elliott, they forgot to talk about the most important thing he was selling to customers: his personality. He was so focused on what to say, he was getting overwhelmed. Once he felt comfortable just being himself, everything changed, and Elliott began to grow. On top of that, he dealt with being misgendered constantly, not only by customers, but by our coworkers. It wasn't malicious, but it also didn't help contribute to an environment Elliott felt completely safe. There were 2 other trans staff members, but for a variety of reasons, they never had to deal with the backlash as Elliott did. It didn't take long for me to find an educational tool to stop the microaggressions once and for all. Coaching pronouns became the norm from that moment forward, and Elliott began to thrive. It happened so suddenly, like a bud to a rose overnight. He was excelling at his job, melding with his coworkers seamlessly, and unafraid to let his smile beam. I developed deep fondness for this young man. I felt like a protective big brother. I saw so much of myself in him. And if I had someone encouraging me more when I was his age, maybe things could have been different. So, all I wanted to do was make sure he felt supported and safe to just be his damn self. We grew to be close friends. He went out of his way to drive me home on nights we worked together. On those drives, he introduced me to anti-folk punk music, his love for the X-Files, and let me into how his home life was. He was fortunate to have a family who loved him for all that he is. The issues he had with his mom were mostly what any 18-year-old boy would have with a parent. Knowing he wasn't struggling at home made me feel even better. He had a lot on his side that other queer kids did not. His friendship is still something I cherish. He was there at my wedding and all the events surrounding it. I leaned on him during my eventual divorce. He's helped me move more times than I can count. As he grew older, and my life became more tumultuous, he became the one who supported me. He took time out of his life to make sure I knew I was loved. Whatever I needed, he got for me. He had grown into this amazingly confident and strong man right before my eyes. When it was time for everyone to move on from Tivana, he applied to a job where I knew the manager. And when I took the job at the candy store, he happily joined the team and picked up a few shifts a month. He was such a huge part of what made Tivana feel like a family. I needed him at the candy store if I was going to recreate that environment. Other Tivanans joined as well. Tippy, Mary, Sophia, to name a few. Life felt normal for a little bit. Eventually, he got a job that fit his time better and left the candy store. After his last shift, I felt a huge loss. While he only worked 2 or 3 times a month, I usually made sure we were there together. But his life was expanding in positive ways, and the travel time was strenuous. I cried after he walked out of the store. knowing an end to an era had finally come. He needed to focus on Elliott. Due to the pandemic, I've only seen him twice in the last 3 years. The first time we went out to eat and reminisced. We talked about our goals, our struggles, our realities. As he dropped me off that day, I looked at his kind face and felt a bit of sadness. We both had grown in such different ways, but he'd always felt like my little brother. I missed him but knew we were stuck together for life. He couldn't get rid of me if he tried. He recently got married himself, and while I wasn't there to celebrate with him, I thought about him incessantly on his wedding day. A little snag of guilt for not being there tugged at me all afternoon. I hope he could feel my love pouring down on him as he said his vows. I haven't been able to reciprocate the friendship he's so gracefully shown me, but he'll forever be one of my favorite people on the face of this planet. While he used to look up to me for confidence, I find myself now continuously staring up at him and everything his heart has to offer the world. He inspires me to always show kindness and to be unapologetically myself, just like I did for him all those years ago.